like yesterday, we were still talking about how Florida State could win the ACC. Since they managed to win a game this week, you know we've reached the home stretch of the 2024 regular season. The insanity grows with every single week, both the season and my own. So let's see what hoo-ha awaits us this week. It's Thursday night, and morale is high in the Pet Boys Academy. Georgia Tech is coming off a major win over the only undefeated team in the ACC, and they've got home field against hated opponent Dave Doeren in NC State. Then again, who doesn't hate Dave Doeren in that conference? With bowl eligibility on the line, he would need to pull out every trick in the book to get there and salvage whatever is left of the season. He'd do so by doing what the fuck?
That'd be fun. Ball's on the ground, recovered by Georgia Tech. They're gonna score. E.J. Lightsey.
Now this is Thursday Night Football. Dabo Swinney told the media he thinks the playoff is an SEC Big Ten Invitational. Someone just forwarded him this play from his conference and it'll explain why that is. Haynes King is practically a walking bruise at this point, so to prevent further pain, Aaron Philo would take most of the time in this one. CJ Bailey came in for NC State, and as the story is shown here, it's a quarterback battle for the ages. It's like the battle of Mustafar if the Jedi were replaced with Jar Jar Binks. Bailey was a glorified running back as he did that way better than passing the ball. After another near pick six, it seemed like the game was in the clutches of the Bees, but as the ACC has taught everyone, all in the conference must feel heart-wrenching pain. The Wolfpack began to wallop the Jacket defense. I haven't seen a Georgia Tech defense get bullied like this since George Pickens did it. After Smothers did the namesake and went through the Tech defense, the Pack was on top. But at this point, Philo realized how to play football. If Nico could do it, so could he. One absolute destruction of an NC State defense later and Tech was on top. After some more timeout mismanagement by Dave Doeren, it was time for the deciding field goal.
Snap, clean, kick.
Got the distance.
No good. Oh. Georgia Tech survives.
Wait, let me guess, Dave. This is the fans' fault y'all lost. The fans were what made you do that formation in the first quarter, right? 11 years and counting, and this is the product you present on the field? You better be lucky this fan base has basketball to quell their sport ball agony. The Jackets managed to go undefeated at home for the first time since last century, and after Georgia's lackluster performance against UMass, I've seen crazier things happen in college football. Just saying. The worst teams in college football at the Power 4 level usually have a cycle to them. The Soilermakers have reached the part of the cycle where fans begin to talk about how hard a team plays after a loss. Unfortunately, playing hard isn't acknowledged in any of the record books. You know what is though? Purdue's rushing total. Having a total of negative rushing yards is genuinely impressive. Some of this was due to the fact that Purdue's receivers had all the real estate in the universe for no reason in particular. Ryan Walters had actually conceived a game plan that was more than a picture that said shoot yourself in the foot. However, said potential wasn't realized until the second half of the game. Aiden Childs had already shredded through the Purdue defense for an entire half, putting a significant hook into the plan they've already set up. As every game they've played has shown, scoring is optional for Purdue, and while the comeback they had in the second half was the best football they've shown in a long time, it was still far too late to make a difference in the end. When you score a combined 32 points in the first half against all your FBS opponents in a season, this outcome is the expectation. In fairness, not much Ryan Walters can do about a football team that can't play football. The Spartans prevail in a way that still pisses off everyone in their fan base. Their bowl hopes fall in line on whatever the hell Shiano Ball brings to the table. Next scrimmage just needs to be called Aiden Child's target practice. Here's the part of the story where we as college football fans are supposed to pretend and be surprised that this was the outcome of the game. The horseshoe is where all hopes and dreams go to die in the Big Ten. Just ask Penn State. You're basically them this season. A team reinforced by a schedule of coughing babies. Here's the hydrogen bomb you ordered. Indiana actually started out strong with the 7-0 lead, which would be the best performance they've put up against Ohio State in years. The rest was a blur. Despite Ohio State taking a huge hit on the line from the injury bug, it still heavily outclasses that of the Hoosiers. All it took was $20 million. Also a special teams error. As the game goes on, the more the similarities to Penn State continue to spike. At least the Hoosiers attempted to pass. Curtis Pork just wasn't good at it. Ohio State did their usual against these teams and slowly choked the life out of them until they were nothing but a team waiting to go home. The Indiana run game was as harmless as a pair of titty pillows, and every time Pork stepped back to pass, he was getting flashbanged by the nut defensive line. You were simply outclassed, outbought, outfootballed. It takes work to maintain a 30-game win streak, so it was always going to be a miracle in order to pull this one off. We'll see you in the playoffs where the next raising is coming. If you don't know what that means, Google it. Ohio State gets the gift of what will be a return to the Big Ten Championship on top of watching the Nuts completely incinerate their rival after Thanksgiving. I sure do hope Lou Holtz is in attendance. The Lagway Tour of Wrath continues as the Gators play spoiler again. They've already shredded one team's playoff hopes, why not another? As it's become clear, Billy Napier took every narrative about him after the Texas game personally. The Gators have turned into a massive problem. Whatever bucks are being paid for Lagway to be in Florida, they need to send him a chamber full of gold. Let him bathe in it like Scrooge McDuck. This wasn't the only problem for Elaine Kiffin though, as his boys he paid millions of dollars for were getting dominated up front. They built a team all around the premise of beating Georgia, and then said f*** it to everyone else in the SEC. Caleb Banks was in the backfield so many times it's now pregnant with triplets. Even the bus failed to drive efficiently, stopping in Tuscaloosa of all places. Down by 7 1/4 to go, it would be all within the arms of Jackson Dart to help his team down the field to tie the game. Showing the clutchness of James Franklin versus Ohio State, he threw into triple coverage and got picked off. This should have been the game, but Billy Napier wanted to make a statement tonight, so he let Dart come back out on the field one more time. With playoff hopes all on the line, here's what came of it.
Four-man rush. Dart. Sidearms one down the sideline. That one is going to be picked. Another miscommunication with Juice Wells. And Bryce Thornton does it again.
There's always certain coaches who take whatever odds they have that favor them and shit all over them. Elaine Kiffin is one such example. A swing and a miss. Every time without fail. Let's take a look at the analytics again. Oh wow, they say fuck you. Florida latches another huge win for Billy Napier and company, and above all else, pulls off the most impossible feat of all. The prophets said this would have happened, but nothing, absolutely nothing can save the postseason from the wrath of Billy Napier. Alright! Florida has made it to a bowl game. This one also propels a certain someone back into the playoff bubble. You know what that means. The Vols are back! Tell me if you've heard this one before. The Miami Hurricanes line up against an inferior ACC opponent and blast a tropical storm up their behinds because the talent gap is too much for coaching to overcome. It's been the story for a majority of the season. Losing to the Jackets might have been one of the better things to happen to them, because now they won't be sleepwalking through everyone they play. Well, at least for the second half. As for their offense, it was Cam Ward doing Cam Ward things. He once again diddied an entire secondary with minimal effort as he does. While Miami did do a whole lot of manhandling on the offense, they also performed quite a bit of tomfoolery, including this delayed tunnel screen which was caught by the defense. But as per the norm, the cardiac arrest Canes eventually got it together and wiped out the dead Deacons. If they played like this consistently, they might actually be a legit force in playoff contention. But continuing to skate by lower competition only lessens that idea that you are something more than the ACC's Indiana. If we're being honest, all the top teams in the ACC are Indiana. The only bright spot for Wake Forest was the true introduction of Jordan Lyle, who had a semi-breakout game against the Canes defense. Potential wasted. Get the hell out. Get out! Miami goes undefeated at home for the first time in a while, and with the way the rest of the conference has panned out, this is the best time ever to potentially win the ACC. If they can't do it this year, it's safe to say it's time to sue the conference. Miami fans, make sure to pay attention. This is the adversary you'll likely be up against in Charlotte. Despite the return of Tony Muskett last week against Notre Dame, Anthony Colandrea would return to the fray for Virginia. How did he pay back said favor? By doing f*** all against the Horsies. In fairness to him though, when you have a line that's made up of air, there isn't much any quarterback can do. SMU lived rent-free in the backfield, landing 9 sacks. This all but assured there wasn't much of anything that Kevin Jennings had to do to lead his team to victory. But he did a lot anyway. over 300 yards through the air, all but guaranteed this was nothing more than an execution of a team and potentially a career. Virginia was determined to go down with Calandria, as Musket wasn't even given a chance. Virginia went like Mario and wahooed themselves straight into the depths of hell. This highlights the performance of the match against the Hokies coming up. Blow that one, and you could put a bow on Tony Elliott's time as head coach. Being 2-10 in the ACC at home doesn't do you any favors. SMU is one of the funniest stories of the season for me. First year in the conference, and they've completely taken over said conference. An undefeated record and a chance at winning the whole damn thing. Miami has been trying for decades to do what the Horsies could do in one season. Now I could see why Clemson and Florida State didn't want them in. They are making a clown of the entire conference. Not quite clown of the week, but this is humiliating for the ACC. Well, at least you're not the Big 12. Other than Missouri, there's not a team in the nation that is catching more shit for being a ranked team. How'd they pull that feat off? By being Indiana light. Rutgers is only slightly different. This was shown when the two teams met on the field, in which the quarterbacks were playing a game of how many times can they miss their receivers. The Burt Bielema passing game would be a ghost if it weren't for the absolute legend known as Pat Bryant, as he shredded the Rutgers secondary through the entire night. The Scarlet Knights managed a significant run game, which turned the game into a dogfight of offense, a complete shift to what was expected. Both teams traded blows back and forth through the entire day, which led up to a Thon Krakatoa finding Kyle Monangai for a go-ahead touchdown to take the lead with a minute left on the clock. Stopping the Illini offense, all they had to do was hold Illinois on this 58-yard field goal to seal it.
And they blow it dead. And he missed it, regardless, but it doesn't count. Timeout.
Or Greg Schiano could ice the kicker on what was already a very hard field goal to make, giving the Illini a chance to shift their game plan entirely. Thus, pain.
Double A gap blitz. They bring the house. Here's the throw. Hit as he throws. It's caught by Bryant. First down. 15, 10. House call. Touchdown. Pat Bryant.
Pat Bryant, the dude who has been the only reliable guy in the offense, once again found wide open for an Illinois touchdown. Schiano icing his own team is something you don't see often in college football. A decision so bad it's being compared to the Seahawks in the Super Bowl. Just like that, Rutgers has now gone 15 years without beating a ranked opponent. It's like they're just trying to be better, but the football gods demand they be the perennial doormat of the Big Ten. At least they're going bowling this year. Nothing can take that away from you. Whilst the Fighting Illini build a statue for Pat Bryant, let it be known that while there was no more Big Ten West, there will always be a group of garbage teams that teams like Illinois can rely on for free wins. Maryland's fan base has become so dejected this season, their fan turnout is nearly identical to that of USC. To be fair though, can you really blame them? It's Loxley in November. Nothing goes right. You can get all the turnovers or big plays that you want, but every one thing that goes right will be followed by 2 or 3 wrong things. With Cade McNamara still at war with the injury bug, up-and-coming Jackson Stratton would have to fill his place. Basically, that's exactly what he was. Filler. He barely ever threw the ball. He left it up entirely to the running game of Iowa. Both Caleb Johnson and Kamari Moulton melted through the Maryland defense like volcanic ash to plastic. Thanks to their efforts, Johnson managed to break a single-season touchdown record for the Hawk Tuas. The injury bug was not satisfied with one quarterback though, as it would take the opposing team's ball thrower as well. With Billy Edwards out, MJ Morris would have to take the reign for a little while, but it made little difference. Unlike Iowa, there's no run game for the Turtles to fall off of. It's moments like these that remind you of when Mike Loxley got mayonnaise poured on his head. It was the peak of his career at Maryland. Wait a minute, that game was in December, how did he manage to pull that off? Isn't it illegal for them to win games outside of September? Whatever. Iowa's season gets slightly better as Kirk Ferentz will grab another decent year for the 97th time in a row. Loxley chose to take the high road after another loss. What does being negative do? You know what? You're right. Think of the bright stuff. You and your team get all of December to watch all of the bowl games that you won't be in.
Get the frick out of here! Get the frick out of here! Get the frick out!
Before we tend to this game, let's hear some wise words from our Tar Heel brethren, Mitchell Trubisky. Truly inspiring, my friend. Let's check in with Mac Brown now. Yep, sounds about right. Coach, we've got one of the best running backs in the conference. He's been shredding every defensive line we've thrown him up against. Great, let's not use him! 11 carries for a running back that's been your bread and butter this year is by far the most Tar Heel football thing I've seen. Grayson James has filled the spot Castellanos left behind in a significant way. No amount of Jeff Collins push-ups is going to stop this Eagle. Not sure what changed, but the Eagles and Bill O'Brien have locked the hell in. The Eagle defense melted through the line and made a complete joke out of the Tar Heel passing game. It was a Boston Tea Party, hosted by what looked like to be James Madison. This was just as bad. In a hilarious twist of fate, Mac Brown's recent clinching of bowl eligibility all but guarantees that he will be staying in Chapel Hill because the Tar Heel administration hates football. All he needs is a little more time to get his guys in the system though. He only needs about 9 more years, and then BAM! National title. The administration clearly thinks otherwise though, because despite how terrible Ryan Walters is, North Carolina's beaten Purdue's administration to the beat. So ends the tenure of Mac Brown. You let a president score 70 on you. They'll get you someday, and that's what happened. Boston College claims their 700th win in program history and in the process joins the postseason roster.
Alright!
But quit the celebrating. Bill O'Brien is not a good head coach. It's just the ACC making him out to be one. I'm still salty towards TCU for taking Haley Van Lith from the transfer portal when Tennessee could have taken them, but vendetta aside, this was no competition. Wait until I tell you what Arizona's game plan was. You may not believe it. Fafita McMillan. Yep, that's it. Everyone else on the team was an optional non-factor. You don't get to breaking records and losing seasons in the same year by doing anything else. Over 3,000 career yards, and the only thing to show for it is the troll job Brent Brennan pulled off by getting this job. Kevin Sumlin got more out of a team than this. TCU had little difficulty pissing all over the Cats. It got so bad they put the almighty Ken Seals in the game. If he's throwing dimes on you, you know it's time to throw in the towel. You know you've reached rock bottom when the professional shit posters are flexing on you. Expectations exceeded? What kind of headcanon are you living in? The coaching exodus of the 2023 season has screwed Arizona as much as anyone else. Whatever Jed Fish took to Washington has clearly left the Wildcats with nothing but dust in a win over Utah, who, as we know now, sucks as much as they do. All it took was a year for Arizona State to completely eclipse you in skill and talent. Well, all that matters is the future. Let's take a look at said future. Yep, looks right to me. Get the hell out of my face.
Do me a favor, please. Get out of here.
In any other case, this game would follow the trend of the SEC this week, in which the underdog comes out in God form and beats the higher competition. You then remember that this is Kentucky. All of their wishes of glory go into basketball season, which still goes unanswered. In any case, if they had wishes to put on football, they'd wish for Brock Vandagriff to throw a football correctly, or for Big Mark Stoops to be canned. Anything is a win for them, except for the actual games, of course. The Longhorns are benefiting in a major way from terrible strength of schedule, as they have yet to play another conference opponent with a winning record. The only one they did beat their ass. Quinn Ewers was about as bipolar as you can get. One great play followed by absolute football neurological diarrhea. Coming to the realization that Quinn was a liability, Texas decided to use the old Michigan run the fuck out of the ball style. It was effective enough. Hell, if Auburn could shred that defense, so could they. All of Texas' hopes and dreams line up in the long-awaited Lone Star shitfest coming next week. A&M is in the top 15, so that game has major implications. Right? The silver lining for the Ball of Basket School was that they found a guy who could actually throw a football. Cutter Boley would mend the struggles of the 2024 season by showing Kentucky that there is hope for a distant future. There's no hope for you this season, though. Get f***ed.
And get back to the coal mines, baby.
Penn State is still trying to prove to the college football world that they were not pretenders after losing to the Nuts. Got some bad news for you, though. The 7-5 merchant of college football is one win short of said prophesized stature. So for the next 2 weeks, they'll be playing like a playoff team for no reason in particular. They'd pull off all the tricks in the books for the next 2 weeks. Max Brosmer would light up the scoreboard, and not even the special teams was safe. The Nittany Lions were deep and shitney. But Penn State had tricks of their own. Specifically, Tyler Warren, some more Tyler Warren, and a little something like this.
And their punter out there, and they fake it. And they've got the first down and a lot more. Luke Reynolds.
That wasn't Tyler Warren, but at this point you can just pretend it is. Seeing James Franklin go for it on 4th down is quite out of character for him. You want to know what's even more insane? Watching him do it again.
Drew Aller is going to throw for this or run. Throws. Who else? Tyler Warren at the 3-yard line.
Did I really just see that? Since when did James Franklin have a pair of testicles? Not only that, but it didn't blow up in his face immediately. Wow. 2024. Penn State survives a trap game among many teams who were not so lucky. But at this point, they'll have to wait until the postseason to prove to everyone that they were not fraudulent. We'll see in due time. The biggest loser of this game was actually Wisconsin, as they will now be guaranteed a loss to 7-5 Fleck. It's football purgatory. It's what Gopher Nation has been cursed to endure. Damn it, and I wanted free cheese curds. With BYU falling to the Jayhawks last week, the Big 12 has regained the throne of the Power 4 tank conference. No undefeated teams and nobody in the conference with a pulse, other than that of the legend himself, Cam motherfucking Skibbity. His powers have carried the Sun Devils to a potential Big 12 title bid. All that remains in their way is BYU, and whichever poor soul makes it to the conference title alongside the winner of this game. The Cougars went to church for the first half, as they were not in attendance to slow down Skibbity and Sam Leavitt. Jake Retzlaff was there to throw some turnovers and then called it a half. Pending a pep talk from BYU's coaching staff carrying Mike Leach-level enthusiasm, the Sun Devils quickly found themselves being overwhelmed by the revitalized Jewish Mormons. Minimal time remains and the Sun Devils have the ball. They take the James Franklin route and attempt to convert a 4th down to ice it. But the football gods would not show kindness to you. You'd have to earn it through the defense.
4-man rush this time. Retzlaff's pass, picked off at the 40-yard line. Robinson, he might take it back, being chased by Retzlaff.
And there you go. Now you can celebrate. Arizona State has maintained control of the new tank conference, as this win propels them to the top. Long live Cam Skibbity! Wait, hold up. Apparently the game's not over. Oh, there's 1 second left. They've already taken down the goalposts and everything, and there's fans being arrested. Just do like the Texas refs and submit to the fans. After 20 long, grueling minutes of getting thousands of fans off the field, BYU would get a shot at a Hail Mary. This would be the funniest thing ever if they could pull this off.
Okay, now there's 11. They just got the 11th guy on. Retzlaff steps up, moving to his right, hoists it deep. And it's underthrown, and it was caught but short of the goal line. It was caught by Chase Roberts, but it doesn't matter. The game is over, and now they can celebrate.
3 yards. 3 yards closer, and Arizona State would have been clown of the season. Get on your knees and praise the great Cam Skibbity, and also Kenny Dillingham for being a football guy, as it has become clear to the Cougars that Kansas' loss means a whole lot more now. Imagine blowing your playoff chances to the Jayhawks. You are literally shitting me. Colorado finally had some momentum. They were the frontrunner for the new tank conference. Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders are lighting up every offensive stat known to man, and all they had to do was win out, and they would be in the college football playoffs. I feel like I said the same thing I said last week about BYU, and the same thing I said the week before with Iowa State. Dread from it, run from it, Kansas still arrives. The Jayhawks, for whatever reason, decided that at this point in the season was the real time to awaken their potential and play like conference contenders. At this point, they might win the damn conference. Devin Neal and Jalen Daniels made a complete joke of the Colorado defense. Over 400 yards at a Colorado defense everyone thought had improved. What the hell is happening to the Big 12? Everything has gone to hell. It's so bad it's got me really thinking the ACC is far better. Oh wow, look at this. Colorado fans blaming the refs? Rich, that's real rich. Guess you just completely forgot that Shedeur shoved a ref and didn't receive a flag for it. No, it's not the refs' fault. The only ones you have to blame is yourself. Let Deion Sanders blame whatever media outlet he wants. ESPN, CBS, Stephen A. Smith, it doesn't matter. This will always be remembered as a remarkable season for Colorado and Deion Sanders, but it will also be remembered as the year that Ashton Jeanty won the Heisman. By the way, Jeanty ball also prevailed again. Big shocker, I know. The only path to a bowl game for Lance Leopold is through the fate of Dave Aranda. Good luck down that path is all I can say. For the Wolverines, this week started out better than most. Before the game even began, the Wolverines took another giant dump all over Brian Kelly, stealing Bryce Underwood from their grasp. Just like that, there goes BK's bargaining chip. What came after the pickup in recruiting was a pickup of an offense. Wherever it was in the first 10 games of the season is an anomaly, but Northwestern got ran through more times than Riley Reed. Khalil Mullings did it, and then for good measure, Donovan Edwards was received from the running back graveyard to do it again. Colson Loveland came in to break the single-season reception record for a Michigan tight end, just to get injured right afterwards. Things got so bad that Northwestern fans are wishing for the return of Pat Fitzgerald. Let's check in on him, shall we? Yep, sounds about right. Michigan gets a much-needed win ahead of the game, which lifts them to the postseason.
You can't stop anything.
The game won't carry much significant weight to it this year, but man, oh man, would it be absolutely hilarious if Michigan won. Ohio State would have to earn Clown of the Season at that rate. Northwestern, man, you probably realized this the moment the season started, but there will be no postseason for you. Use the extra month to find a team worthy of it. Get out! I think it's about time we had a discussion about Luke Fickell. I was one of the believers of his air raid system at Wisconsin. Give him at least 2 years and that revitalized offense would show its fruits. I get it's not Locktober anymore, but even back then this offense was mid at best. After all the money spent to bring in a new offense, there ain't shit to show for it. Fickell is out here getting exposed worse than the volleyball team. Dylan Raiola, who couldn't throw a complete pass against the California teams, came into this game and suddenly looked like the 5-star we were expecting. 300 yards is the performance Nebraska is actually getting their money's worth. Wisconsin's defense, on the other hand, isn't worth anything more than a dime in a bag of Doritos. Nebraska finally gets back into the win column after a month of getting clowned up and wait a minute. I just realized. Oh my goodness. They did it. They actually did it! In what I think might actually be the biggest twist of the season, the football prophets have let their feud on the corn go, and it's finally happening. Nebraska is bowl fucking eligible.
Alright! Alright!
Welcome to the almighty 2024. Wait, hold on. Y'all rushed the field for this? It's a bowl game, not a national title. You're still ass. The Badgers' 22 years of winning seasons hangs in the balance of the 7-5 Merchant, who only has 6 wins. You can tell me which elimination sound effect to use in the comments below. Hit up the Patreon while you're at it. I was originally going to give this college tank bowl status, but then I came to the realization that Cal actually doesn't have a losing record. How'd they do that? Nonetheless, they want to rip away whatever sense of happiness there is left out of their ACC rival. After watching the aggression from these people during the game, it told the whole story. There were less people in the stands than quarterbacks on the field. 7 different quarterbacks got snaps in this game. Stanford appeared to have the battle won, as they maintained the lead most of the game. Ashton Daniels was playing at his peak, and Stanford had some semblance of a run game. But following a special teams miscue of the ages, Fernando Mendoza got all the motivation he needed to pop off. Passing, running, and putting his big golden balls all over the trees. Puts a whole new meaning to tree humper. Cal quickly gained the lead over Stanford with minimal time left in this game. 3 terrible plays later, and it's now 4th and 15. Whatever is left of the season is now on the line for the trees. What do they got to show for it?
And they will be aggressive here. Daniels being chased from the backside. Throws it up for grabs. Incomplete.
Troy Taylor showing his California pride by letting the other team from California come back to win. How nice of him. Justin Wilcox manages to grab the axe in what will be the game that propels the Golden Bears to bowl eligibility.
Alright!
A great win for Cal, who needed it desperately. Why are you rushing the field? They're 3-8. You beat the husk of a tree. This isn't field rushing worthy. This is usually the part where I tell Stanford about another sport. But what sport would that even be? I mean, I guess you're in the Brain Bowl. Good job. I'm not going to highlight too much from this. There really isn't much of a point. While it is pig time again, this was an uninspiring performance against a high school team in November for Arkansas. Taylon Green did a thing, Arkansas rolled over a bag of doo-doo, you get the idea. The important thing to grasp from this performance is that somehow, through all of their self-mutilation, Arkansas is still going bowling.
Alright!
We'll see you in December when Arkansas beats you again. It's surprisingly fitting that this town is called Stillwater. It's like brain-eating amoeba are chewing away at you every time you watch Oklahoma State football. While the season is virtually over for the Cowboys, they'll still have to go out there on the field and pretend they care. Too little too late, Alan Bowman, who just needs an 8th year to be good, has been put on the bench for freshman Malulake Smith. I know I butchered the name, give me time and I'll get it down. Anyway, this was clearly the right move against the Red Raiders. If you can't stop them, don't let them stop you either. It was a philosophy both teams lived by. Both Baron Morton and Smith whipped, Nene, and did whatever else they wanted to against the opposing defense. And if it wasn't them, Ollie Gordon and Taj Brooks were doing it. It was a classic 2018 Big 12 shootout. Just two teams beating the absolute piss out of each other until one eventually fell. It's like Goku versus Frieza if they were both Yamcha instead. As we both know in these college football games, the days of draws are long over. Someone was going to have to come out on top. We interrupt this broadcast to bring you the true form of Oklahoma State football.
First 3 scores. High snap. Bouncing free. Into the end zone. Texas Tech recovers. It's a touchdown.
A high snap resulting in a Texas Tech defensive touchdown. Tell me that isn't Oklahoma State football. Not sure how Gundy is going to get out of this one if I'm being honest. He's talking in press conferences as if he's calling the shots, and there is no such thing as an athletic director. If you don't miraculously beat Colorado next week, you might find out all about him. Your recruiting class clearly won't bail you out. You can always tell them about Alan Bowman. He's a man, he's close to 40. The Red Raiders clinch their winning season for Joey McGuire, and they can get their 8th win pending on what happens in the country roads. Speaking of said roads, it's usually at this point in the season that Gus Malzahn rallies his team to a miraculous win over a conference opponent with just enough strength to extend his contract for another year. Looks like he missed the mark this time. While the Riskler had a great debut earlier in the season, he looked less like an up-and-coming freshman and more like every other quarterback under Gus. RJ Harvey proved while he is still one of the best running backs in the conference, but that does him little good with no passing game and no defense. Like most coaches in the Big 12, the football gods demand they stay in purgatory. West Virginia won less of their own game plan and more in spite of it. Garrett Green in the Battle of Mid was the lesser of two quarterbacks. Or more mid? Point was, he was slightly better than the Riskler. With UCF playing from behind the entire game, there was no relying on the Gus Bus to come back into the game. That shit lost its tires way earlier in the year. At this point, it's rotting in some random Florida field waiting for demolition. The Mountaineers are a victim of a double-edged sword. This win all but guaranteed another year of Neil Brown, but look on the bright side. Bowl game!
Alright!
If you think about it, he earned this. The Mountaineers technically still have a path to the Big 12 championship. They just need a whole lot of losers this upcoming week. Central Florida's 8-game bowl streak comes to an end ahead of the final game of the season. Gus won't be retiring yet though. He will burn this program to the ground just as he did Auburn. Get out! Pittsburgh fans are in the process of building a time machine that only goes back 1 month. They were on top of the football universe in October. Now they're being skinned alive every week. This is the consequence you get for mocking Penn State's loss. Your strength of schedule made even the likes of Indiana look like they were running through a gauntlet. Pitt is eating so much shit currently they are suffocating from it. Pat Narduzzi was supposed to earn ACC Coach of the Year a month ago, and now his golden throne he's been sitting on has been turned to stained ass. Eli Holstein is back at least, just to be gone moments later. The injury bug gave him a total of 1 drive before dragging him back to the injury tent. Nate Yarnell's re-entry into the fray was met with similar developments. Nothing at all. The Louisville secondary accepted nothing Pitt tried to take from them. Spearheaded by Staquan Clark, there would be nothing the Pitt offense can do. They even tried to throw David Lynch out there on the field as well. Similar result, shut down and picked off. They did to you what y'all did to Kyle McCord. This would be funny if it wasn't expected though. Barely slipping by terrible competition all but set you up for a downfall of the ages. If this was your last win of the season, you still blew expectations way out of the water. So there is no scenario where Pat Narduzzi goes anywhere. The weather is too fun for that. Louisville's season hangs in the balance of whether or not they can beat Kentucky next week. Seems like an easy task, but we said this last year too. You'll never hear the end of it if you don't. Those behind the polls continue to pull off a significant troll job by keeping Missouri in the top 25. Pushing fake SEC bias narratives continues to be comedy for the entertainment of everyone with a brain. Speaking of Mizzou, they would be heading down to Stark Vegas, where everyone there is betting against their own team. Good call too. Nothing has changed. The story is same for State. Big gains from Michael Van Buren or Devin Booth followed up by collapsing in the red zone, leading to Missouri getting the ball back. The defense did them absolutely no favors either, as the Tigers ran the ball 53 times on them. Brady Cook was near perfection as his return to the gridiron brought upon great gain for Mizzou. The biggest story goes to speedrunner for dipshit of the year, Eli Drinkwitz, running his mouth to a bunch of college kids on the other side of the field. This team was already degraded enough, dorkwits. Nothing your goofy ass says is going to affect them. Mizzou collects their 8th win ahead of the final game with pig time. State just wants everything to be over. The fans are already fed up with Jeff Lebby as they were with Zach Arnett. Whether or not they fly off the handle again is yet to be determined. There's not a group of people more thankful for the US military right now than the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. They represent the only quality wins the Irish have got. 'Twas business as usual for them, as Notre Dame swiftly put the Knights to bed. Army went back to the days of World War I, literally relying on trench warfare and going back to a time before the forward pass existed. I get they weren't pass heavy at this point, but 8 total pass attempts for 26 yards? At least you could have tried it. Riley Leonard and Jeremiah Love had little struggle going through the defense they were tasked with eliminating. It was clear from start to finish that the high-end talent would always prevail in the end. As Elon Musk said previously, they have been restored. Notre Dame gets the Medal of Honor for being the only team I can remember that lost to a MAC team and still made it into the top 5. Most other fan bases in this situation would be throwing tables, smashing TVs, and demanding someone to be fired, but Army's fan base provides no such entertainment. They're just happy to be here. When every other fan base spazzes out post a loss, it's great to see some other fan bases show support for their team. Well, mostly. Oh my lord, I get it! You wanted me to cover the Cougars last week, because why? They lost to a group of 5 team? They live in a group of 5 themselves. I'm not legally obligated to cover every group of 5 game. My apologies. Despite all of that, this is the one and only Pac-2 conference game, so it's definitely worth covering. The college football world appears to think otherwise because this game is being thrown to guess where? The CW, the hell zone of TV networks. It's a crime for a game like this to be there. The implications are big, the bragging rights are big, and the game itself was peak football. It was everything Pac-12 After Dark had to offer and more. A blow-for-blow shootout where nobody could stop anyone, and the real winners were the ones watching it. John Mater dominated both the run and the pass with over 300 yards to show for it. Trent Walker appeared to have legally owned part of the field, as nobody on Wazoo's defense could stop him. Through everything the game gave, it would come down to the final 2 minutes of the football game. Tied up at 38 apiece, Wazoo with the ball would have to drive it down the field in order to, and they fumble the ball. Everything goes to shit when you are in the Pac-2. After chewing out the clock, the Beavers would have a chance to remedy what has been an awful year for them by winning the conference on this 54-yard field goal.
45, so you tell me this is 55. On the way. It's good. On the way. It is good.
Congratulations to Oregon State. Through all of their hard struggles and their pain and agony of the 2024 season, they will be remembered as a conference champion. A huge win for Trent Bray and company. It's games like these that will be solidified into the history books of the Neo-Pac Conference. The Beavers are now only 1 win away from bowl eligibility, with their defense being matched up against Shanty Ball. Well, you'll still make history as being the only non-bowl eligible conference champion ever. While both of these teams are patiently waiting for basketball season to hit its apex, they'll have to make do with what they've got. What they have is mid-tier football. As I've said about teams like UCF, if you're gonna lose, lose with style. The baby blue uniforms are at least a nice little touch at the bare minimum. They take the attention off the pitiful offense presented on the actual field. It's like a cage fight, except they're fighting themselves instead of their opponent. The team carried a total of 7 turnovers. Whatever I said about Kentucky's offense in the past, I'll go ahead and take back now. This is insanity. Granted, despite the Looney Tunes-ass offense on the field, Baylor's offense was at least somewhat acceptable under Sawyer Robinson, as he can still complete a pass. The Bear fans have convinced themselves they'd be contenders for the national title if he played from the start. Zion Chris also had 3 interceptions, but lacked any passes to his own receivers to remedy that fact. This guy breakdancing put up a better offensive fight than Houston's team brought. Thus, the Bears spanked the Cougars baby blue, making the Houston administration question why they even moved to the Power 4 play in the first place. Willie Fritz taking another L is apparently motivating to him going into the final game of the season. Hope you're motivated enough to go into the Provo Temple, because that's the only chance you've got. No December for you. Get out! Wait a minute, wait. Hold on. Don't do the transition yet. I just really wanted to play the clown music before we get to this circus. Alabama! Ding dong, the Wicked Witch is dead. Let this week be a reminder above all else that Nick Saban is a part of Aflac and College Game Day and will not be coming back to save you from the hell that you're living in. Not only did Alabama waltz into Norman and take an L, they got anally destroyed by Oklahoma. Yes, the same Oklahoma that has benched Jackson Arnold more times than I've taken a piss today. Speaking of Arnold, he was borderline unstoppable. He didn't even pass. He took Jalen Milroe's legs and ran it all over the Alabama defense. Multiple picks in clutch situations, including a pick 6 in which he caught up to the guy to slide tackle him and still missed. That above all else deserves clown of the week if anything. Everything went wrong for Bama. Even when things went right, such as a clutch catch by Ryan Williams, ref ball would screw them out of it. What the fuck is 2024? I'm not sure what kind of juju the Sooners pulled off over the weekend, but Brent Venables just proved why he is one of the best defensive minds in the country. His efforts not only keep his job, but put Oklahoma into the postseason as well. Alright! Alabama, on the other hand, gets 3 losses in a regular season for the first time in a very long time. And Alabama fans are jumping out of the windows left and right. Thus are the consequences of a dynasty. Once it ends, it's impossible to reset expectations. Let's hear those famous words from Horace. Was ain't at with the beers and have like it, don't get Saban on him, moose boot-toted and none of football. Roll Tide. Couldn't have said it better myself. Hugh Freeze is also looking for a win to save his job. Best be on your A-game, Kalen DeBozo. Wait a minute. Aggie Nation? What's happening? We need a wellness check for them. No, not just them. For the entire SEC. They've lost 2 championship contenders in one night and could potentially lose another one right here. Peyton Thorne not only remembered how to throw a football, but now he was good at it. 300 yards? Auburn had 300 yards passing. There's some sort of glitch in the matrix and I'm not sure how to feel about it. Meanwhile, A&M appears to be stuck in said matrix because they certainly were not in attendance until the second half. Marcel Reed couldn't complete a pass, and the defense was getting toasted for the entire half. All our focus was on Texas. Yeah, believe me when I say I can tell. It wasn't until the second half that Reed finally started completing passes to someone other than Auburn Jesus. Did Freeze bring the escorts? How was he so locked in? Once the game got competitive again, it was a blow-for-blow duel to see which mid-tier SEC team would die first. Neither team would go down, thus there was only one way to settle it. Welcome to Jordan-Hare overtime. Both teams couldn't stop scoring in regulation, so the momentum would continue in overtime as well. But then came Auburn Jesus' ultimate nemesis, ref ball. This might be worse than the call in the Bama game just a minute ago. What in the hoo-ha is this? Mattered little though because A&M had to kick a field goal too. At this rate, we were bound for another 7 overtime matchup, or even worse, 9 overtimes. However, in the 4th overtime, we were finally gifted to an end.
Direct snap, pitch back, Reed rolls right, dropped! It was dropped!
pun entirely intended, welcome to the drop-off zone of the Aggie roller coaster. You knew it was coming eventually. The SEC continues to crumble to a point that the Big Ten is the only conference set in stone. Nobody knows what the hell is happening to all the others. Great news comes out of this though. Even if Jimbo Fisher is no longer there is no saving A&M from destiny. It calls. An 8-4 is on the way. Auburn has the chance to once again pull off the funniest thing ever against the Gumps next week, as Hugh Freeze has already potentially picked up a job-saving win. Is anyone gonna get fired this year? Even though BYU lost, they can take solace in the fact that, as it turns out, Utah is not running the Big 12. In fact, they're running themselves into the underworld. Utah's bowl chances rely on the next 2 games, but going face-to-face with Rocco Purdy, their chances look...
And that pass is picked off. A takeaway by Lander Barton. And Barton is still moving. He's got some blockers. From behind, he's going to go all the way. It's a touchdown for the Utes. And Lander and Barton.
Better than previously thought. If Rocco had some receivers, maybe this Iowa State team would be undefeated. Whatever aside, Iowa State was clearly the better team in the game, as Isaac Wilson struggled to complete a pass as the 10th stringer on Utah's quarterback depth chart. Special teams miscues and turnovers assured that Utah wouldn't go away though. The Tropical Storms were trying everything and more to piss away this game against the walking quarterback injury. Oh, what's that you say? Quarterback injury? Don't mind if I do. Good lord, man, give them a break! Ever heard of Luke Bottery? I imagine not, but he's here, and that's about it. Despite what was a strong effort by Utah in the end, their season was already terrible. All that was left was for it to become terrible-er. Iowa State survives, and Jaden Higgins gets his 1,000 receiving yards in the season, and all of this was secured despite a 17-point handicap. The Utes have gotten it just as bad as Oklahoma State, using senior citizens as quarterbacks with coaches way past their prime. Worse off for Utah fans, both are likely to return again in 2025. They'd sooner die on the sidelines than retire. See you in the College Tank Bowl next week. How nice of LSU to bring Bill Belichick to Tiger Stadium. It's important for the fans to recognize a real head coach. There's no need to exacerbate how horrid this past month has been for LSU. They've been getting their back blown out for weeks on end, both on the field and on the recruiting trail. Big Game Burger King has already shown why he's earned that title. So now the win over an easy conference opponent is overdue. At this point, he is coaching for his job. He's finding out real quick the extreme hostility of LSU fans. They'll want him sacrificed to the Dark Lord if LSU wound up blowing this one. In a rare twist though, it would be the LSU defense saving the day from offensive incompetence. Despite Nussmeier having a decent day, nothing could save him from overly conservative play calling and the chance of those wanting him and BK gone. These events were transpiring while Alabama was getting a Sooner colonoscopy, only adding fuel to the fire. Regardless of said events, Diego Pavia couldn't hit a receiver to save his life, and even when he did, the drive would eventually stall out. LSU, similar to Texas, did just enough to keep Vandy at bay despite their comeback efforts. The Commodorks have aimed all of their focus on Tennessee and burning this YouTube channel to the ground. LSU will get to complete the cycle of bullshittery by beating Oklahoma next week, all but confirming that the SEC is a cannibalistic shithole where nobody wins. Just another fan base tired, agonized, and ready for change. The Hokies are trying their hardest to remember their days of Big East dominance and Michael Vick, as they watch whatever the hell this team is flailing around and letting Duke do whatever they want to them. Surrounded by 2 toilets, the Blue Devils have taken all the attention in the state of North Carolina, both by being better than them and letting Malik Murphy flip off the entire world. In an act of defiance or a final gasp, the Hokies would claw their way back into the game going into the second half, only for this to happen. Damn it, Bug! Can we have one complete game? This would be followed by a man named William Watson III entering the fray. With a name like that, he's either going to be the greatest quarterback to walk the East Coast or...
Watson the throw, intercepted!
Or that. A whole lot of that. With 0 third down efficiency and a missing run game that's been on Amber Alert since October, it all but guaranteed that Virginia Tech would take the reign of what Nebraska left behind. A streak of losing one-score games. The Brent Pry era continues to be nothing more than mid. With all the offseason hype for the squad, we all knew it was over the moment they lost to Vanderbilt in week 1. They will be facing their rival in the Cavaliers in what will be a win or go home situation, as both teams need to win in order to make a bowl game. Manny Diaz will be up against the Dead Deacons next week. So yeah, congrats on the 9-win season. This game shared only one significant contribution to college football, and that's providing continued tomfoolery to the Big 12 and ensuring that nobody knows what the hell is going on in the conference. One constant remains at least. Their Bearcats are in over their heads in Tank Conference. Avery Johnson and company had little trouble outperforming Brendan Sorsby. Corey Kiner hit 1,000 yards rushing again, which is always fun, but that's where the fun ends. Cincinnati is a place where no fun is allowed. Scott Satterfield once again got outcoached and the fans are getting sick of it. Sick enough that they want Luke Fickell back in town. I'd reconsider that option if I were you. Kansas State, despite having 3 losses, still has a path to the Big 12 title. Then again though, everyone's got a path to the Big 12 title. I have a path to the Big 12 title. Cincinnati will return to Nipples Stadium this week, upcoming in their final game against TCU. They don't win that one, and it's to the couch in bowl season. Bring a basketball with you for good luck. Consider yourself lucky if you passed out before this game was broadcasted. Your body did you a favor. It's Pac-12 after dark, but without any of the spice that made it fun to watch. It was hell. 2 quarterbacks struggling to quarterback, 2 football teams struggling to football, and never would I have thought Lincoln Riley would be on the winning side of a defensive slugfest, but 2024 is filled with surprises. It took all the way up until the 3rd quarter for someone to finally score a touchdown, which was followed by punt, turnover, SpongeBob, in no particular order. Somehow though, the Bruins had regained the lead in the 4th quarter. Everything seemed to be going right for them too. They were completing passes and running the ball, which was then followed by another stall out, and USC immediately went down the field and scored. But that's fine. Down by 6 with 2 minutes left to go, you got this. Just keep your composure, focus up, and it's already 4th and 10.
Garbers, 3-man rush. Looking, drilled, incomplete.
You finally established a decent run game, and you decide to completely abandon it with 2 minutes left on the clock? Brilliant. 1 million IQ move. Chip Kelly has never been so far away. USC clutches their 6th win of the season in the most unmotivated way possible. I've never seen a fan base so pressed about being bowl eligible. Here's a sound effect to compensate for it. Don't worry, UCLA fan, I've got a sound effect for you too. But it's not what you were hoping for. You knew what you were getting when you stepped into the Big 12 though. Get fucked. Get out! That's everything for final regular season week eve. Let's take a look at what the conference standings look like now. Of the major 4 conferences, the Big 10 is the most set in stone. Oregon has clinched their spot in the championship, and with Indiana falling to Ohio State, all that is left is for the Nuts to avoid doing the funniest thing ever against Michigan. Penn State is also there. The SEC took the biggest hit this week, with 3 of the heavy hitters falling off the map. The biggest winners are Georgia, who now clinches a spot in the conference championship, and Tennessee, who is now in the bubble as long as they don't die this week. Alabama and Ole Miss are likely done, and A&M still has a shot if they can somehow win the Lone Star shit show. South Carolina's also there. The ACC is the Horsies versus whatever poor soul meets them in the title game. Miami still has to beat Syracuse in order to clinch their spot, and if they don't, it opens up Clemson to transfer into that spot. Nobody else is there. With the conferences in check, here's the top 25 for this week. I found it too difficult to kick anyone out, and since I'm not a corporate sellout, Missouri is still not ranked. As always, for those of you who are subbed up to the Patreon page, your patronage is greatly appreciated. You are great people, and you should be recognized as such. Now then, before we call it a video, there's something else I need to say, and man, does this hurt to say. Many of you are probably aware of the legend on YouTube known as Big Vol Daddy. He's been here longer than most people I know. His unwavering spirit toward football and everything else was something I, and among others, always admired. Chances are, if he never did YouTube, I wouldn't either. Above all that though, he was an incredible friend. Saying goodbye is something I've never been good at, And saying goodbye to a longtime friend is something I could never prepare for with a million years to do so. But that's the unfortunate reality of life. Knowing him, though, he'd see me sulking right now, and smack me in the face and tell me to man the hell up. So I'll do that for you, man. And while I'm at it, I'll hug my mom and dad for you. See you later, Keith. I love you, bro.